Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum's 21 Jump Street.
You guys on drugs?
Really? That's one of your guilty pleasures. Okay.
Way funnier than it has any right to be. It's ridiculous.
Carry the two, changing its atomic isotoner into a radioactive spider. You, science.
I didn't laugh that hard at that one.
It's way over the top.
Go back in! Go back in! What's on your head? Is it me?
Okay.
My wife and I think it's hilarious.
So we probably shouldn't tell people about this, huh?
I'm just glad it was you.
That's great.
That's a guilty pleasure, 21 Jump Street.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode on Back to the Podcast. We're your hosts, Justin Neal, and I am Chris Lawler, and today we've got another fun episode planned. We're going to be talking about guilty pleasures once again. That's right. We're going to be doing a follow-up episode to our previous guilty pleasures, which I thought was a lot of fun, man. That was almost a year ago. Do you even remember recording that?
Yeah, I remember talking about Titanic.
Yeah, you did go into Titanic, which definitely feels like one of those guilty pleasures, man, for sure.
That was almost a year ago, so it's been a while. It's wild. So this is the first of our,
kind of
follow-up
follow-ups,
episodes,
yeah.
which is fantastic.
Yeah.
We're here.
We've not done one of these yet. And everybody has always been like, oh, you didn't mention this, you didn't mention that. It's because we run out of time and there's not always enough time to talk about it. So here we are.
Now we begin the second round.
Right before we came on, and this was gold. But what were you saying is really a guilty pleasure? Something you're not waving the flag for high and hard?
I'm not into feeling guilty. Like, if I'm going to do something, I'm either going to justify it or I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? So I rarely feel guilty about something that I do. But there are definitely movies that I don't necessarily wave the flag for.
That's what you were saying. Yeah. Okay.
Some of these are just a total mess. And if I was in a film conversation with someone and they were like, you know, that movie sucks, I'd be like, well, yeah, but I don't care. I love this movie.
The thing that I was doing was really just going and looking at my DVD collection. What's in here that I wouldn't necessarily
have bought now,
be proud of, or bought now, right? That hasn't maybe aged as well. Or it's this is good enough. I'll watch this. That's kind of what I'm thinking of with this guilty pleasure. So we've got a nice little list of things to talk about. But of course,
okay, cool.
Usually before we dive into our main topic, I love to get caught up with Justin about what we've been watching, what's good out there. So have you seen anything while we were on our little hiatus?
Well, I've been super busy, but one of the things my wife and I went and saw was the new Ghostbusters movie, Frozen Empire.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And
it was kind of a date night, and we just wanted a fun movie to go see, and we laughed through that whole movie.
Well, there you go.
It's probably a hot mess. There's probably plot holes that you could drive a semi through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a movie that I recommend you pick apart, and I didn't. I went in with the perfect point of view, which is I want to go see a movie with my wife
and have some fun.
That is fun, and we laugh.
See, this is proof right here, because the critics and the viewers have been completely divided. The audience has been raving about this movie,
and I can see why.
And critics have been kind of dumping all over it, is what I've been seeing.
Because the movie, as cinema, as art, is trash. But that's okay. It's hilarious.
It's fun to have a popcorn flick like that. I mean, once again, we're going to be talking about guilty pleasures today.
Oh, my sister had something great to say about this. And I agree with her. I think she summed it up right. Okay, so in this movie, they went for the joke more than the lore. Whereas with Afterlife, they held the original in such reverence that any deviation from just worship, was almost blasphemous in that movie, and it just wasn't as fun. Whereas this movie, there is no worship going necessarily. It's let's bring the person in for one scene and then move on to the next thing. It doesn't all have to tie together perfectly. It's one scene ends with a joke and then we're on to the next scene.
Okay.
And hopefully starts with another joke. That's the idea. And I think Ghostbusters should be more like that.
Sometimes, right, I like to just go turn my brain off and just watch something and just be entertained. So it's good to hear that you had fun with that.
And I think that leads into what we're going to talk about
today, for sure.
Perfectly. Like,
this is a great guilty pleasure.
Because I'm not going to go toe to toe with someone at NYU Film School about the merits of Frozen Empire, but I could say I laughed a lot in that movie and I walked out feeling very happy. You know what I mean? Like, then what's the point if that isn't the point?
It still did pretty good for opening weekend, and the numbers have been there as well. So, and you didn't even see it opening weekend, right?
No.
Yeah.
We went on like a Wednesday
Nice.
night or something.
Yeah.
And we thought it was hilarious.
Justin says Ghostbusters is, a fun time.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. Rent it. Get super stoned and watch it. You'll love it.
I can't believe we did it, but we somehow strung together our intro with the topic today.
That never happens.
Before we dive in, let's go ahead and give a big shout out to our sponsor, Cosplay Curiosities. They're an amazing e-commerce store created by cosplayers for cosplayers, offering a unique range of apparel to keep your cosplay spirit alive, even when you're not in costume. Whether you're between conventions or just taking a break from cosplaying, their collection is perfect for representing your passion. And here's the treat. Visit cosplaycuriosities.com and use the code BTTP at checkout for an extra 20% off on your purchase. Again, that's cosplaycuriosities.com. BTTP is the code for 20% off. And they're carrying our merch.
I'm going to buy a t-shirt when I get off.
We should get some shirts just to start repping and maybe get them on some mugs or some merch or something like that. I think it's a fun logo.
Let's get into our topic, man.
I have a good list.
Why don't you go first? I'm curious what you were going to lead with. I was thinking about it last night. Like, I really want to know what Lawler would lead with.
What do you lead with? How do you choose the first topic? And honestly,
I know what I would lead with, but I want to know what you would.
I usually lead with what was the first thing that inspired the list.
My lead is the first one I thought of too.
There you go. And then that usually guides me. So the first one that I came up with was Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser.
Okay. And Elizabeth Hurley?
Elizabeth Hurley and Harold Ramis directed this one. And I have a soft spot for this rom-com.
Post Groundhog Day.
Yeah, post Groundhog Day.
What year did that
Post Multiplicity as well.
come out?
2000. This is
It's Y2K.
Y2K. Apparently, it's going to be a thing now. Did you ever see Bedazzled? It sounds like you did.
I actually didn't. I know.
What?
Man, I didn't care when it came out. I was like, Harold Ramis, what are you doing?
It's a fun movie.
You know, I could probably go back and watch it now and appreciate it more than.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the year I graduated high school. Bedazzled is not the movie that I was watching. So, like, it makes sense at that time.
Oh, Mr. Snooty Pants.
It's true.
I was in coffee houses. I was smoking my clove cigarettes.
No, I wasn't. I just would have wanted to, like, well, cloves might have been right, but I would have wanted to, like, firebomb the theater that was playing.
That's hilarious. I saw this one in the theater.
I was an angry senior.
I would have been damaged by your hate and rage, just so you know. I enjoyed this one. So Brendan, I mean, we've talked about him a lot on this show. And of course, we both appreciate, I mean, even back to Encino Man, we've brought it up. He's a great actor.
He's had an interesting career.
So Bedazzled, he plays like 6 or 7 different versions of himself in this.
He loves doing stuff like that.
It's hilarious. When he becomes the 7'2" basketball player.
Oh, man, you just got to play one game at a time and go out there and give 110%. And you just got to show that you want it more than they do.
I don't know, man. Elizabeth Hurley's fun. Brendan Fraser's fun.
But Harold Ramis directed that.
Yeah.
And I remember noting that at the time and just being like, Harold, what are you doing?
I mean, he did Multiplicity. Did you hate on that?
I didn't see Multiplicity.
What is happening with my life right now?
I didn't.
Why? It's one of Michael Keaton's
Keaton, right?
best films.
Is it Andy McDowell?
Yes. And she is amazing in that one as well.
I don't have an answer for you.
Shame.
For shame.
Shame.
For shame, Justin. I got to catch up on my Harold Ramis, directorial.
You should, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those were good ones. So, I mean,
are they?
I don't know what to tell you, man. Bedazzled, once again, the reason it's here is because it's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Yeah,
so
I was about to say.
You may not like it the same way I like it.
And I just haven't
but
seen
Multiplicity, you're going to absolutely love.
Okay, cool.
And of course, they did some great tech work with making him interact with himself.
1, 2, 3.
Making it very seamless at the time. Obviously, we do that kind of tech all the time now, but it was very new at the time.
I think it was more fun then because it was so much harder than it is now. Now it's relatively easy.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing's that easy, but comparatively, it is easier than it used to be.
Multiplicity.
But that's what made it more fun then. You know what I mean?
That's a good comedy.
That's one of the things with CG in general. It's like, well, if you could show anything, then sort of everything loses value.
A little bit. That's why we do get super excited over practical effects, especially if they can do like 90% of what you're seeing in frame.
Composite them all together.
Miniatures look great. I don't know what it is, but they still can hold up and really sell a scene. I don't know why. What?
We were going off topic, but I'm going to use it to slingshot around and bring us back to topic. So we're talking about effects. One of my guilty pleasures is a tent pole of the effects genre. And of course, I cannot go without talking about 1999.
Independence Day?
And this is Star Wars Episode 1,
Okay.
The Phantom Menace.
Really? Okay. All right.
So
elaborate.
That came out my junior year of high school. And at that point, Star Wars was actually really niche. He had re-released the original trilogy in the theater leading up to that.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
I remember.
And so it kind of seeped out a little bit more, but The Phantom Menace, that was my Star Wars. So my mother she made a deal with me. She said, you could stay out one night. You could stay out to get tickets, or you could stay out
I feel gutted, man.
to go see it the morning of.
Because we made fun of the people that camped out for that movie.
Right.
Those guys were camped out for days. I saw it opening night.
I didn't do days. I wasn't allowed to do days.
These dudes were camping out for days because we were across from Texas Instrument. So they were going to be projecting it in digital.
Oh, cool.
Because it was the first thing filmed in digital.
Yeah. Well, not the first one.
Wasn't it? I thought
No, the second one was done fully digital. The first one was not. Phantom Menace was still shot on film.
But they were okay. I don't know. I just heard Natalie Portman talking about it, and she was.
I am 100% sure.
Fine. I'm going to take your word for it. I'm not even going to try and step on your toes with that one.
Well, I'm right. And yeah, it's a hot mess in a lot of ways, but
that pod racing.
Lucas used to be a racer. He's a racing nerd.
Okay.
And so I could see Lucas being like, well, if I'm going to do a new Star Wars movie, I'm putting a race in it. You know what I mean? Like that could be one of those fundamental.
It was the hot moment of the film.
That he's been thinking about for 20 years. He's like, I'm going to make an actual race for people who know about racing.
I'm assuming that's what American Graffiti is all about then for him.
Exactly.
Cool.
But anyway, The Phantom Menace was, I mean, everything's been said about The Phantom Menace.
We just learned a little bit about you. That's all I got to say. I had no idea that was.
It's a guilty pleasure of mine.
And this is the fun of this list right here, right?
Also, it has one of the best pieces of music I think John Williams ever did. For Star Wars, and that's Duel of the Fates.
See if we can have the sound less disturbed by still improved intonation. You'll hear a lot of beating in that. I will take it, please.
And I remember when Entertainment Television was still like a Friday night sort of thing once a week, they aired the preview for the movie with that song, and it was intercut shots of the movie with shots of production with shots of John Williams conducting the score. And so it introduced the song, it introduced
That's awesome.
them making it, introduced everything. And I taped it from television on VHS.
Back when we could do that. Yeah.
Because they were hyping it up. So I knew it was going to happen. So I taped it and actually took it to school the following Monday. And in chorus, the teacher like wheeled in one of the old like
I rented this from the AV Club.
TV VCR units and I played it. It was such a thing at that time. You know what I mean?
I do remember at that time, but I'm not the hardcore Star Wars fan.
I was one of the lone Star Wars fans, and then everyone became a Star Wars fan. It's like when a band becomes super big, it's like, well, okay, now everyone likes that band.
Yeah, I mean,
I gotta go find another band.
For me, Star Wars wasn't anything different from all the other movies that I grew up watching. I was just like, oh, here's this one with these creatures and these aliens.
Oh, okay, it was a thing for me.
I was lucky enough that we had like those original VHS cassette tapes before he started really like editing new stuff and redoing the CG.
Those are the best posters too, by the way.
The original.
Yeah, the original cassette.
Box sets.
You know, those are the best posters.
I miss those.
Man, those are awesome.
Star Wars is just not my thing. I'm a big Rogue One fan.
We're going to talk about Rogue One.
We're going to talk about that.
One day.
Fun to know about episode 1 as a guilty pleasure, though. That's for sure.
Does that kind of spark anything in you that you want to talk about?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've got some stuff on here that's going to fit right into that.
Okay.
Definitely not in the Star Wars universe by any means.
Sure.
But another one of those, like, I'm never getting rid of this because I do enjoy this movie from time to time. I'm a big Jet Li fan.
Okay.
So I just kind of into martial arts and everything like that.
The one?
Oh, it's close, but it's Romeo Must Die, actually.
Okay, I remember that. Yeah, I was working at Blockbuster when all those started coming out. You know what I'm talking about.
This was 2000 again.
He put out like 6 movies a year.
Yeah, it was incredible. And Romeo Must Die was one of those guilty pleasures.
I remember the cover.
Jet Li, I thought, was just fun in this one, and how it was the two families, and they're
right on.
Obviously just trying to retell, you know, Romeo and Juliet. Like, it's been remade so many times.
Martial arts.
Martial arts. In LA.
Okay. I didn't see it, but you like it? It's fun?
I'm giggling so hard because the thing I like about it the most, it's not even necessarily the stunt work, because the stunt work is kind of ridiculous.
Is it? Okay.
He beats the crap out of a bunch of dudes while playing football.
I'm just faster. Small and nimble.
Honestly, I shouldn't even be bringing this one up, but this is exactly why it's a guilty pleasure.
Doesn't matter if it's good.
I think it's fun.
It's that you like to put it on.
The one is also kind of a guilty pleasure. I mean, not a lot of people really like that one. This is a decent concept, and Jet Li is entertaining, and I do enjoy the martial arts. And the fact that he was able to fight himself in that movie was a cool digital effect for that year that movie came out. You know, digital effects were new at the time still, so it was fun to see them implemented. And him growing as an American star was, I don't know. I'm gushing now.
Yeah, right on.
I like Jet Li, guys.
I'm going to piggyback off that.
Yeah. Do you have something fun?
Similar flavor, and you'll get what I mean.
Okay.
The recent oh my God, it came out over 10 years ago. I guess it was 2012, and that's Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum's 21 Jump Street.
You guys on drugs?
Really? That's one of your guilty pleasures. Okay.
Way funnier than it has any right to be. It's ridiculous.
Carry the two, changing its atomic isotoner into a radioactive spider. You, science.
I didn't laugh that hard at that one.
It's way over the top.
Go ahead, go down with your hand. Go back in.
What's up with your hand?
Oh, God.
Is it me?
Okay.
My wife and I think it's hilarious.
So we probably shouldn't tell people about this, huh? I'm just glad it was you.
That's great.
That's a guilty pleasure, 21 Jump Street. It's even meta. It's self-aware.
Isn't that Phil Lord and
It's Phil Lord.
Yeah, Tim Miller, right? No, wait, I'm getting that wrong.
Yeah.
Is it? Did I get that right?
Lord Miller, though. Lord Miller.
Sorry, Mr. Miller.
But anyway, yeah. And they did the Lego movie, right?
Yeah, and they've gone to really grow their repertoire.
21 Jump Street, it's kind of like that. It doesn't necessarily work as, cinema as art, but cinema as fun. It plays kind of like the new Ghostbusters.
And they got a sequel out of it, too.
And actually, I'm getting to that place more and more. I'm saying, like, there are two different types. There's a movie.
Yes.
There's movie as fun and movie as art.
Exactly.
And it makes a difference in how you watch it, which is how you respond to it. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of glad you're bringing that up, because that's one of the things that made me not want to be a critic here. It's one of those things when you start going down that rabbit hole, then you start having that frame of mind with, no, it should be like this, when it's just like, how does it make me feel?
Why does it have to be like that?
I mean, once again, it's you and me standing in an art gallery. We're staring at the same piece of art. You are having one type of effect by it, and I'm having another one. And it's just, how does it make you feel?
Yeah.
Oh, I really enjoyed that. And I did enjoy the aspects of the artistic and Once again, like Oppenheimer, I didn't enjoy the art aspects of a lot of things that were going in there.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little, art housey for me.
A little too highbrow.
And so everyone...
A little too up its own asshole.
I think everyone just has different aspects when they're, sitting there watching a movie.
And I like both.
Yeah.
21 Jump Street is cinema as fun, and it's a lot of fun to me.
I have seen it. It wasn't...
Guilty pleasure.
It just wasn't the funniest thing for me, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it, but I didn't walk away having the same effect.
That's fine.
But they did make a sequel out of it.
H. John Benjamin.
Holy shit, he's good.
Is the college football coach. That was the highlight to me, just because when that man starts talking, it just makes me so happy. I can't wait to see that new movie where he's the voiceover.
Read my lips.
You petulant little
Why am I drawing a blank?
Whatever kills all.
Bill Skarsgård's new movie.
Yeah.
Boy Kills World.
There you go.
Lovely.
I got there. Yeah.
As soon as he starts talking, I'm like, I'm in. You have sold your ticket.
I think that's going to be a fun one.
But anyway, 22.
They just released some more video content for that, like another little teaser trailer.
Oh, okay.
I've been staying away from it, like how you say. I want to know a little bit about it.
A little bit.
But I shouldn't see the whole movie.
Trailer should be a teaser. It should tease you. Go to the movie and then see what happens, as opposed to a 3-minute
I know.
highlight reel of the whole movie. The only thing that you don't see is the dialogue scenes in full. Everything else, you know what's going to happen, so you're not surprised by anything, and then everyone complains about it.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to happen.
No, I get
Like, well, then why did you watch 500 hours
I'm with you.
of...
There are good trailer editors, and there are definitely the trailer editors that are like, well, this is the beginning, this is the middle, and the end of the movie. I've seen so many trailers where I'm like, well, we just watched the movie, didn't we?
Which you end up shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. I don't know. Hollywood is confused, as we all know.
Yeah.
Does that bring up anything? What's on your list?
Yeah, I was going to go back to some adventure and fun. I'm going to bring up another Brendan Fraser movie, but The Mummy.
Oh my God.
The Mummy is definitely one of those kind of guilty pleasures, man.
Yeah. Goodbye, Benny.
That was so much fun in the theater when it came out. I saw that a couple of times.
It doesn't totally hold up anymore, and the legacy's been a little tarnished with the sequels. They're not,
Yikes.
as good.
The Rock and the Scorpion King and all that stuff. Oof.
Yeah, especially with the way that he looked at the end of the second movie. And then Jet Li in the third one.
It was a lot of fun, that first one.
Fun, right. No one was expecting it. I remember.
It was better than it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I remember everyone thinking.
Like, oh, they're going to like start up the like monster movies over at Universal. Okay. And then we all went and saw it. We were like, that was a good time. I had a good time with that.
It had more of an Indiana Jones vibe to it.
And it still held its own as something separate without imitating.
I think it balanced things. It was a good adventure story. It was funny. It was entertaining. Like, it had a good mixture for that time.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it in a while, so I don't know how well it holds up.
First one still works.
Like, this is a really good balance of different sort of flavors for a mass audience.
The first one still works. The second one's got genuinely decent moments, but it falls a little flat.
I didn't even see it.
And then the third one's just sort of unwatchable, man. I don't know if you've ever seen the third one where they go to fight Jet Li as some like mummied king from some ancient dynasty. And
I didn't see it. I had way gotten off the boat at that point.
First one is the one that I will, if that shows up, like, because the wife likes to throw it on every now and then in the background. It's like, oh, you know what? I could watch The Mummy. This is fun.
Okay, then I'm gonna go right off that one with Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers.
Come on, you ape, you wanna live forever!
Lovely. Yes. Now, this one's hard for you to admit as a guilty pleasure because this one has grown and gotten more and more love.
Okay, now, but it was a guilty pleasure for a long time. So I agree with you that
I get that now.
Through the arc of time, it has come around.
Yeah.
But we look at that movie differently as a whole than most people looked at that movie at that time.
I really enjoyed that when it came out, and it was one of those like kind of odd films. It wasn't super popular, but it was at the same time.
Well, it was also kind of confusing.
No one really got it.
Are they being serious?
Yeah, I know.
Is this a satire?
I loved the humor in it.
Or are they taking this seriously, or kind of both? Which I think is what it is, which is what makes it so interesting. It's tongue-in-cheek, but it's serious at the same time, which is hard to pull off. So it's kind of ridiculous, but they're like leaning into that.
And it works. It works so well.
Yes.
I can rewatch that movie over and over again. I'm with you. Hey, finally, both of us have this on our list. We finally hit Struck Gold.
Which rarely happens.
I guess The Mummy. You said The Mummy as well.
It's true.
This is a bigger one.
Because we disagree so much, I usually tell people the one movie that he and I are 100% on board with each other on is Fury Road.
Fury Road for sure.
Other than that, I don't know. It kind of depends.
Kid's kind of sketchy. No, this Starship Troopers is
There's
great.
actually a lot going on in that movie. That's a strange movie with a lot of different layers.
Super enjoyable, and it still really holds up.
It was a cult movie for a long time.
Especially when they do the they were able to put thousands of these creatures on screen, and it was just like,
and it looks good.
how did they do that? That's amazing.
Yeah.
This was only a few years after Jurassic Park.
It's very violent.
And it's very violent.
Extremely violent.
Yeah.
But Paul Verhoeven again, like RoboCop, that's him.
Total Recall.
He does extreme violence.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
He does.
So there you go. Starship Troopers. Does that make you think of anything?
I'm going to go complete opposite, man, and bring up one of my favorite comedies, though.
Okay.
This is one of those kind of weird ones that I don't mention to a lot of people, but Kids in the Hall, Brain Candy.
That is the strangest movie I have ever seen in my entire life.
I'm so glad I could hear that out of your mouth, because it is, and it is so much fun.
That doesn't even count as a movie.
I love it. I've introduced it to the wife. She thinks it's hilarious as well. I was a big Kids in the Hall fan when I was growing up.
So was my sister.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
But I don't know anyone that like promotes Brain Candy.
That's why I had to bring this up. Yeah.
That's yours.
I don't talk about it much with anyone, but
That's your movie, dude.
man, I really enjoy the silliness.
Has anyone else tried to watch that movie out there? It is
Yeah.
so bizarre.
It is so strange, but I think that it is very joke heavy. I love the fact that they were able to at least have a through line storyline, so it wasn't just nothing but.
Did they?
Here's the sketch. Yeah, it was about how they created this new antidepressant.
Oh, okay.
And everybody was on the drug, but then it was turning them into like brainless zombies.
I would say maybe I need to go back and rewatch that, but then again,
Maybe
I
you don't.
know. Yeah, I don't know if I should.
I really enjoy Kids in the Hall style.
But I like that you like it.
There's something to it.
Okay.
And so when I was doing my research, it turns out that there was actually some behind the scenes controversy with this movie. And I was like, out of everything that I'm doing research on, I did not expect that. So apparently there was a character in there called Cancer Boy, and he's got a very, very small scene. But I think the joke is that they create the antidepressant and he meets Cancer Boy and he's like, doctor, thank you so much for your wonderful miracle drug. And he's like, oh, are you using it? He's like, no, but my parents are, and now they're not as depressed about me dying from cancer or something like that. It's a pretty dark joke, but see, you giggled at it. It lands, but there was some controversy around having this character. And it led to disputes, and apparently they stood their ground to fight it in there.
Okay, no, I love that.
And it's in the movie.
Thank You for Smoking has a Cancer Boy like joke.
How on earth would Big Tobacco profit off of the loss of this young man? Now, I hate to think in such callous terms, but if anything, we'd be losing a customer. It's not only our hope, it's in our best interest to keep Robin alive and smoking.
I'm so glad you brought that up. No one's ever actually seen that movie.
That's a dark comedy.
That's a great movie, by the way.
Oh, we love that movie, yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy that one.
That's Jason Reitman's first movie.
I didn't know that.
Ivan Reitman's son.
I didn't know that.
That's his directorial debut, dark comedy.
That right there could be a guilty pleasure.
It's dark.
It was my birthday when that movie came out, and they were like, what do you want to go do today? And I was like, I want to go see Thank You for Smoking. So I took a bunch of random people to go watch this very dark movie. And in the first 5 seconds, that scene happens on like a Sally Jesse Raphael kind of like talk show. And Aaron Eckhart is amazing in that movie.
He owns it.
Total random thing, but I'm glad you brought that one up.
But same sort of gag.
Yeah.
And I laughed at that one. So when you're talking about, Brain Candy, I'm like,
exactly. So I think Brain Candy holds up. There's a lot of strange, very dark.
Also, something crazy, mid-90s, I know you love it, and that's Hackers.
Yes, of course I love Hackers. Is that a guilty pleasure? Once again, I'm going to go with the fact that it's helped maintain a cult status throughout time. Do you think that would be a guilty pleasure? Are you embarrassed to tell someone about that movie?
See, that's where we get into, well, I'm not embarrassed about any of these, but
the semantics of this.
Okay, I wave the flag for Hackers with a very specific
Okay.
type of person, and that's you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Someone my age.
Probably grew up on it and would understand it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love Hackers, man.
That's it.
It's such a bad, good movie.
It's not something that I would recommend to anyone outside of that group of people.
Would kids, if I just showed that to a kid, would they even understand half of what's going on? They're hooking up to telephones, they're using beepers, they're watching television.
Yeah, but they might love it because it's so
retro,
unrealistic. You know what I mean? Yeah. It could play on a different level to a new generation.
I bet.
Like, even if you find someone who likes Hackers, you immediately start talking about how bad it is in so many ways. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of lends itself to this discussion.
I love the seriousness that all the characters bring to the ridiculousness. And I think that's what works, is the fact that everyone that came to that movie came to play and came to be like, no, I'm this character and this is the world and we're going to be cool. The fact that they own it is like, okay, this works. It's fine.
It's kind of acceptable now, but that doesn't mean it's not a guilty pleasure. You know what
All
I
right.
mean?
There aren't any rules on here. You're not breaking any of them. So,
And if there were rules, I would specifically try to break them. So
this one came out in 1996.
Okay.
It is directed by what is now an Academy Award winning director. He didn't win the Academy Award for this movie, just he is now. And that is The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox.
Peter Jackson.
I really enjoyed the hell out of that movie.
I didn't think about putting it on the list, but that could fall on my list too. That's a guilty pleasure.
I'm not necessarily embarrassed. Like we were just kind of discussing, like,
Well, it's a little bit different now because Peter Jackson's career has gone differently.
Well, but when I show this to people, people don't get it. It's not totally a horror film.
Yeah.
And it's got this weird.
And it's not a comedy.
Yeah, I know. It's this weird divide.
It's that Kiwi thing. It's a Kiwi movie.
You nailed it,
It
man.
is.
Yeah.
Like, and it's supposed to take place theoretically in the US, but it doesn't really look like any place in the United States. And the cars are a little bit different.
They're trying to pretend like it's almost maybe Maine, you know what I mean? Like maybe on the east like coast, but it doesn't feel like that at all.
It's hard to pinpoint exactly where that movie is supposed to land, and that's what makes it so interesting to me.
Yeah, this movie started with just a poster. We were in line to see something else in the summertime, and the Frighteners poster was there. And I don't know if you remember it, but it was a 3D hologram.
Oh, yeah.
And so you could lean back and forth, and it looked
My
like...
VHS copy had the same thing.
Yeah. It had the same thing on there, but the poster, that was it. And it just said The Frighteners. And me and my mom were just standing there in line doing this. Like we were like tripping on acid or something in line, which is not what was happening, I assure you. And we were just leaning back and forth at it. And then it finally came out and we went and watched it. And of course, I think I get my open-mindedness for film from my family being open-minded to seeing things like this. And we went and saw it. And once again, it resonated with us. We get the humor, we got the horror, and Weta was a brand new company at the time. Now they're one of the biggest digital companies. And this was the first time that they were really working on something.
Michael J. Fox does a great job interacting with...
This was right before he retired.
People that aren't there.
And stuff. So this is one of his last big blockbuster performances. And I think he's amazing in it. Underrated. Big time.
But yeah, The Frighteners, that's a good one, man.
So it's on your list. I'm glad to hear that.
It would be totally. Okay, so I'm going to piggyback off that to an early digital one that is a guilty pleasure for me, and that is James Cameron's The Abyss.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So that one's a pretty popular movie. You think that...
Is it?
Isn't it? I thought people regard that as like the most technological advanced movie of its time. And, you know, with the underwater creature. And
yeah, but it gets a lot of...
I hate that movie, so you got me.
Yeah, see, that's what See, your response is what I'm used to seeing.
Yeah.
So when you say, like, I don't know, it's really regarded, I think, is it? What's your response? You go, I hate it. I go, exactly.
I've tried to watch that movie so many times and it's so slow.
You just proved you know what I mean? Not in a bad way.
Okay.
Like that was perfect, your response. Like, because most people say that, and yet
I'm glad I could help.
And yet I keep putting it on.
Okay.
I'm kind of fascinated by what went into making it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I imagine when I'm watching it. But I like that he kind of swung for the fence in an esoteric sort of way, which was one of the, you know, main complaints about the movie was the ending and how, like, what? Aliens and what's going on? This makes no sense.
Director James Cameron set out to make the most ambitious underwater film ever, combining state-of-the-art technology with a human story.
I would say it is a love story. It is a love story set against the background of this intense thriller type environment.
Okay. I don't even know anything about the ending because I've never made it that far.
It kind of goes off the rails a bit, and that's why.
All right.
Like,
Okay.
I don't know anybody who really likes that movie.
Didn't you bring up Titanic the last time? So is it always going to be a James Cameron movie as a guilty pleasure of yours?
Probably.
That's so funny, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Avatar would be a guilty pleasure.
That was super popular when it came out, but do people still rewatch Avatar?
No.
I haven't seen it since it came out in the theater because I have no want to rewatch rewatch that movie. Ever.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I throw it on every now and again.
Good to know.
So The Abyss, sort of, I think that kind of counts.
Well, then I'm going to go old school.
Oh,
then.
but here we go. Actually, no.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm actually just going to do a two for there, and that is 2003's Matrix Reloaded.
Really?
Is one of my guilty pleasures. Part 2.
I mean,
not the third one, the second one. Now, it's...
The second one's still got some fun to it. Don't get me wrong.
But it's ridiculous. When it all goes digital, like the digital fight, when there's like 50 Mr. Smiths. And then it just becomes a digital thing.
We weren't there yet with the tech.
There are lots of issues like that. I'm like,
we just weren't there.
Oh, that hurts my feelings. But then there are also lots of things that I like about it. Like the whole scene with the Merovingian. I like all that stuff. And the keys and the twins, the ghost twins, I thought were cool.
They're cool.
But that's why it's guilty pleasure, because you're like, ugh. I'm like, I know, right? And yet I still throw it on.
Well, you're bringing up a thing for me, because the Wachowskis, whatever their name is actually pronounced as.
The Wachowskis siblings.
The siblings, right? Whatever we're supposed to refer to them as now. They've only got one good movie under their belt, in my opinion. I don't understand who keeps handing them money. The Matrix was amazing. It was revolutionary. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And even though I've found fun in those sequels, they're not great.
No.
And then the Speed Racer movie, decent stuff.
I can't even make it through it.
But it's hard watching.
It's like being attacked by Skittles.
Everything just makes sense.
Oh God.
Okay, so The Matrix, the second one, I'm with that. There is still some fun to be had in that stylish stuff going on.
I like some of it.
But then for me, it's like they just don't stick the landing, right?
No.
That's supposed to be a bridge to the third movie, which we were kind of all excited about. I remember the excitement. It was like, I can't wait to go watch another one of those. The Matrix was the most revolutionary thing at, what was it, 1999, right? That was the year it came out.
That's right.
And so we were all hyped for it. And it didn't stick the landing.
I like that movie.
I actually have this other one that me and the wife quote a lot, have fun watching. It's not even a good movie. I think, once again, this is why it's on the list, but that's The A-Team that came out in 2010.
Bradley Cooper.
Liam Neeson.
Did Mick G direct that?
No, it says Joe Carnahan.
Oh, I remember. He did Narc.
Do you know Narc?
I saw Narc.
Stop it.
Narc's hardcore.
We're going to stop right here. You know Narc. No one has ever seen that movie.
Jason Patrick?
Yes, and I really enjoyed that movie. I owned that on DVD for a while, and then it got scratched.
That came out in like 06 too, right?
You don't find it everywhere, so it's not like I came across another Narc DVD copy.
That movie's hardcore.
Yes. Wow. I did not. Well, I should have expected that from you, but I didn't.
Like,
okay.
Who do you think you're talking
And
to?
the fact that you knew who that director was and even knew that obscure one. Narc is another great one. I wouldn't necessarily throw that on this guilty pleasures thing, because that's a great film. You should see that if you can find it.
I haven't seen it since it came out, but I just remember being like, damn. But Joe Carnahan did A-Team. Okay.
I can't believe you did that.
I was thinking it was Mick G, but
no, it wasn't. That's a good guess, though. I could see Mick G totally directing something.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's pretty close.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But yeah, my big thing with this one is that obviously they didn't need to bring in that Rampage Jackson to play B.A. Baracus. He really sucks the wind out of all the scenes. He's not acting. He's just so bad at delivering lines.
Okay.
But the three other guys work really well on screen. Charles Copley was amazing as this maniac.
Yeah, District 9.
Of a pilot. Have you seen this one?
I did at that time.
Okay, so you haven't seen it in a while then?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, this one is one of those things where it's like when we're bored or just want to throw something on.
Throw that one on.
Just to stimulate. Yeah, it's like, hey, could you want to watch the A-Team? And
yeah, I get you.
We giggle like little school kids, and we feel like we're on the inside of this joke. And I honestly could have really been down for a sequel to this one. I think that this deserved a follow-up, because we were only just getting introduced to the team. We weren't even really to what the series was about, where they were men for hire, ex-military. I just thought it was such a fun movie.
I grew up on the TV show.
Did you? I never actually really watched the show, but I knew of it, obviously, as a huge part of pop culture.
So I'll piggyback off that one. It was around the same time, too. I like it for the same reasons. I just put it on and giggle. It's kind of ridiculous. It might seem a little strange to you at first, like a lot of these are. You always go, huh, really?
Yeah, what?
But also at the time, people didn't really get what was going on, and that is Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino's double feature Grindhouse. That's a guilty pleasure of mine, because they're not good, and especially Death Proof is long and slow and boring. The car stuff is great at the end, but I still like it anyway. Those are usually like on Quentin Tarantino's top list. It's like Jackie Brown and Death Proof are at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
So I think it does, even though it is Quentin and Robert Rodriguez and they are popular, I feel like these were not popular movies and people were really confused what a Grindhouse double feature was.
I mean, I understood what was going on and I appreciated them
You're a movie nerd.
For what I am, but I appreciated them for what they were, but they are not one of those things that I have a fond memory of.
I do.
Planet Terror is the other one, right?
Yeah.
That we're not talking about. Planet Terror.
Planet Terror is the first one.
So Planet Terror I had fun with, but that was Robert Rodriguez's film, if I'm not mistaken. We're having fun. And then they were like, hey, you know what we should do? Let's give Quentin Tarantino a scene where he's really perverted and weird.
Break it off.
Dance for me, motherfucker.
The problem with that double feature is that they flipped it the wrong way because Quentin was the marquee name, but Death Proof should have been the way it started because it starts off slow, lots of talking, ends with an awesome car thing, and then Planet Terror is just
the car thing is pretty awesome.
Hardcore from start to finish. So you would actually lead up to it, but the problem
we're having this fun, bizarre ride, and then the next one starts.
And then like an hour and a half of nothing until you get to the car.
I agree with that.
So when I do it, I actually flip it, and I do Death Proof first, and then I do Planet Terror, and that's a great Grindhouse double feature.
I'm glad you like them.
That's some guilty pleasures. I think we're good now.
That's a long list. I think we've got tons of stuff of guilty pleasures. So
that was great.
I'm glad you guys joined us today. We're having a lot of fun on the channel. It really is growing, and we're here to entertain. So please just join the comments. Let us know what your guilty pleasures are.
Tell a friend.
Send them on over. We've definitely got room to grow. And hit that like button if you enjoyed today's show. Subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, tune in every week because we've got new content coming at you all the time. And that's a wrap on today's Back to the Podcast, man.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Justin, you got any last words for everyone out there?
No, man, this is great. I feel a lot better than when I started, so thank you. This is therapeutic for me.
That's fun, man. It was a good talk today, man, for sure. I can't wait to do the next episode. So we'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.